Hey everybody, this is the BS Podcast Network. I'm Ben Dorst.
Steven Dominguez.
At least this show is better than pure BS.
What?
What
are you? I'm Batman.
Who are you?
My name is Bond. I'm Batman.
Name's Bond.
James Bond. I'm Batman. Bond. James Bond. I'm Batman. I'm Batman. This is the Batman vs. James Bond show. The show covering everything related to Batman and James Bond movies. And now, here's your host, Brian Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to an all-new episode of the Batman vs. James Bond show. The name's Thomas, Brian Thomas, and I am your host. And this is the show where we discuss everything related to Batman and James Bond movies. It's great to be back. Oh, yeah. I hope you've all had a fantastic week. Mine's been pretty good all things considered. Before we go on here, just a quick disclaimer. When I started recording this, I thought the video was on, and it ends up that it was not. So bear with me on this. So of course, I'm thinking I'm on YouTube, and I'm not. So of course, next week, hopefully I'll get everything recorded. But the bottom line is, though, bear with me because I have a lot of props that I was going to show tonight, and I'm going to if I do accidentally act like I'm on camera, then I do apologize. But so anyway, I want to get to some news first, and then we'll start talking a little bit more about some other stuff. First of all, just a reminder that the Batman vs. James Bond show can be found on the BS Podcast Network. That's bspodcastnetwork.com. You can find my show and a whole bunch of other great shows on there. So now, and like I said, I'm going to keep plugging this as much as I can, especially for you podcast listeners. If you want to see my smiling face on YouTube, you can now find me on YouTube, Batman vs. James Bond show. So let's get down to business. There were some interesting stories that came out this past week. I'm always looking for stories, and I'm always like, okay, is this going to be a newsworthy week? Is there going to be enough news stories to go to? Because the great thing about James Bond and Batman is there's always so much material to cover. So far, I've already covered villains. I've already covered part of the allies of Batman and James Bond. Eventually down the road, I'm going to be getting to Bond and Batman girls. More reviews are starting to come out. More interviews are starting to come out. I will give a teaser that there is one that's about to come out. I might have a certain interview lined up in 2 weeks from now. It has been confirmed, and I will just give you a hint. It has to do with clothing. There we go. We'll leave it at that. And Christmas wish list. So I will leave that tease right there. But when it came to news this week, like I said, it was an interesting one. And I start off with this story today. It's AT&T has actually bought Batman, Warner Brothers, and the rest of Time Warner for over $80 billion. Now, when I heard this story, I have to admit, I was like, okay, they bought AT&T, a cell phone company, bought Time Warner. What does that have to do with me? What does that have to do with DC Comics with Batman? Well, I'll tell you right now, it has a lot to do with it. The more I research about this article, it has a lot to do with it. So, like I said, an $80 billion deal, and now AT&T, it's almost been confirmed, and this is by the Wall Street Journal, reported this past Saturday. It's saying there's been an agreement reached between AT&T and Time Warner, and in other words, that they will control Time Warner. So they are going to be controlling Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, Justice League, DC Comics, anything that has to do with this. Like I said, they're going to control all kinds of stuff with this. Oh, I mean, what does it have to do? Is it going to affect the movies that we see? Is it going to affect the content? I honestly don't know yet. There could be executive changes. When I just know this much, just as you guys do, and you probably know more about this than me. I'm not claiming to be an expert, but I know when another company buys a smaller company, well, so-called smaller, sometimes they want to make changes in-house. Now, we already know that the DC Extended Universe / Warner Brothers has already made changes when it comes to the production of its movies. There's a lot that's already going on this almost comes back to the backlash. And I say backlash because I know there's certain people out there that didn't care for Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. There's some of you that didn't care for Suicide Squad. Me personally, I liked both of them. I think they were they were good, but they didn't. The potential that they had could have been even greater. I think they could have been. There's so many different things. Oh, go back and check my review for Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice and Suicide Squad. But moving on with that, I will say that it would be really fascinating in my mind. My take on this is, okay, if AT&T is going in there, and not just say they shuffle some people around, what does this mean for movies? I mean, you have all these huge characters, and you could do, there's so many different things that could be done with this. Is there going to be like cross promotion? Are we going to start seeing more of AT&T placed ads, I guess, so to speak, or there we go, product placement, excuse me. Will you see product placement in more of the DC Universe movies? Now, judging from a a James Bond point of view, recently it was controlled by Sony, all the way from 2006 to the present day. Spectre was the last movie that the Columbia Pictures, Sony, the parent company, was working with MGM to help distribute these movies. Now, lots of product placement in James Bond movies. I just showed you a couple product placements right there. You have Tom Ford sunglasses. You have Sony products. You have Aston Martin. You have Omega. You have, depending on what kind of vodka it's going to be, is it going to be Smirnoff, or is it going to be Finlandia? I believe it's called Heineken. There's all kinds of things in there. Is it going to be Jaguar? Is it going to be Ford? Who knows? So product placement's nothing new that's happened in the movie cinema, especially for James Bond universe. For Batman, it's not been so much the case. I mean, I noticed small product placements in there. I mean, if you're kind of a tech geek like me, you kind of tend to notice like what kind of the technology that they're using in, say, Batman movies. From what I understand, they've always at the time, but especially with like, say, the Dark Knight trilogy with recently with Man of Steel. I'm not so sure about Batman v Superman. They were using Nextel products, and the reason I know that is because I not just the phones, but because of the trailers actually that came out. There used to be, with the Dark Knight trilogy, especially for the Dark Knight Rises and for Man of Steel, there used to be a final trailer, and it would be, I think it was like called the Nextel trailer, something like that. And it would be it would still be a trailer, but I guess it was like maybe sponsored by them. So maybe we'll have now an AT&T sponsored trailer. I'm just throwing out just possibilities that are out there. So I do think it is important to note about this that, there could be big changes on the way for Warner Brothers and DC Comics. I'm very curious to see what will happen with this. So, stay hooked on my social media. I always like to try to tweet out this stuff. This just kind of happened like in the last day or so. So until I read up more about it, I didn't want to send out any information just because. But hey, I'll keep you up to date on it when I find out more. So let's move on here. So Ben Affleck, yeah, he's a pretty busy guy right now. Not only is he making movies and directing them, he's also getting ready to make another project. What's it called? Oh, yeah, The Batman, or technically is what it's being called right now, is The Batman, so he says. I reported before that, it could change. He said that was just kind of like a working title. We also know that Joe, I can never get his name right, Joe Manganiello, I think that's how it is. He's the guy that's married to Sofia Vergara. He was the guy, and I did see this, Magic Mike. He was the guy in there. He's really, really good. Actually, I think he's pretty funny as a matter of fact, too. But this guy will go toe-to-toe with Ben Affleck, and Ben Affleck is not a small guy. I mean, Joe Manganiello is like, if you can see this, I mean, he's like that bulky. I mean, he's obviously taken his workouts. This guy must be doing at least 2 workouts a day. Now, judging by the workouts that Ben Affleck did in Batman v Superman, this could be quite a fight in this new Batman movie to come. Now, Ben Affleck did have this to say recently when he was interviewed with IGN. He's still hard at work on his script. He commented saying this: "Last night I spent time working on the script. I'm in full on trying to get it right mode. It's not the kind of movie that you can fail quietly at. You have to really be sure that I have something I really feel confident before we go forward." So there you have it right now. Sounds like he's, there's a lot of pressure for this Batman movie, as is the whole DC universe. Like I was talking before, the backlash, if you want to call it that. It wasn't quite everybody. I think we can all agree with this. Okay, I think we can all agree that Ben Affleck's Batman, he silenced all the haters. Okay, now if you remember when he was announced that he was going to be Batman Bruce Wayne for this new iteration of Batman, mind you, we just came off the Dark Knight trilogy and it ended in 2012. We had Christian Bale. majority, I would say the consensus is that everybody liked him, or at least they loved his Bruce Wayne. The Batman voice. Yes, the Batman voice. What? Where were the drugs going? It got a little old after a while. I can still go back and watch it, and certain things bug me. I mean, that's not something I'm not going to be so nitpicky about if you're taking that approach. I mean, yeah, sure, he could take the approach that Zack Snyder did with his Batman iteration, or Ben Affleck's Batman, and they have the little voice thing that can, that I think sounds a lot better. I think it's the high tech aspect of what Batman can be. I love it. As a matter of fact, kind of has that. It reminds me of the Arrow voice, and I am an Arrow fan. I watch CW Arrow, and I watch Flash. I'm getting ready to probably watch Supergirl and Legends tomorrow. No, I'm obviously not a DC fanboy, but I'm just saying. But going back to this with Batman, it just seems like he is possibly a perfectionist if I had to do it, and as a director and a writer, he wants to make sure that he gets this right. Now, there is a lot riding on this. I mean, luckily, by the time his Batman movie gets started, it's probably, so we last heard, it's going to be spring 2017. Now, by the time that happens, we'll just say that it does happen in spring of 2017. Now, he's still writing it, so that leads me to believe that there's still, you can still be writing a movie and you can still start filming it. That's happened so many times. And script changes happen all the time. So the fact that he's the writer and, he's having help with Jeff Johns to write this, he's directing this, I think that, he knows what he wants to do with this, but at the same time, he's thinking, okay, well, maybe that idea is not going to work. Maybe, maybe I need to, maybe that's just, it's too cheesy. I'm throwing out ideas here, folks. I truly am. But I will say that I do admire how much he does care about this. I mean, just that quote on there, just saying that I'm in trying to get it right mode. When he says that if you fail at this Batman movie, he's probably thinking, and with all due respect, he's probably thinking about the Joel Schumacher films. Because let's face it, folks, the Joel Schumacher films are the equivalent of, in my mind, they are the equivalent of the Star Wars prequels, okay? We know they happened. We don't like to talk about them, okay? If we're Batman movie fans, we usually talk more about, okay, if it's going to be the Batman or the Burton Batmans, if it's going to be 1989 Batman, if it's going to be Batman Returns or the Dark Knight trilogy, or even more recently Batman v Superman. But Ben Affleck, like I said, he did prove that he's definitely worthy of taking on the cowl, if you will. I really liked what he did with the Batman character. I love his Bruce Wayne character that he did in there. Just the conversations that he had with Alfred. I can't wait to see more interaction with him and Jeremy Irons. I think those two play off each other so well. The lecture that he gives, just when he's talking about, when Superman destroyed Metropolis and Gotham City, how many good men are left, how many stayed that way. He has the power to kill millions of people, and if we must take it as an absolute certainty, then we must, whatever. I'm doing that off the top of my head anyway. But I think that, he delivered those lines just like, okay, this is a Bruce Wayne Batman that has just had it. He's willing to, as they said in the movie, new rules. And, I really like that. And as you can see, I am a fan of the Ben Affleck Batman. There he is. There's little Batfleck right there. Anyway, so Ben Affleck also had this to say to IGN. He was saying, and there were the rumors, and I made sure I put this as a rumor last week. He was saying, okay, well, there was another photo on Instagram. You gotta love the power of social media, folks. Joe Manganiello, he posted out this picture, and it was of him and Anna Kendrick, and he was saying, oh, hashtag Deathstroke, hashtag Robin, and everybody's scratching their heads. It's like, oh, is Anna Kendrick going to be Barbara Gordon? Is she going to be the new Robin? Or is she going to be Batgirl? And, Affleck was saying, because it just so happens that Ben Affleck is in a movie called The Accountant right now. Anna Kendrick is in there, so needless to say that, yeah, they've probably been, kind of sharing some time going to premieres and promoting this movie. But he did say that they just kind of laughed about it. Affleck said he'll cast Kendrick in the Batman when she gives him a singing role in Pitch Perfect 3. They did apparently this hilarious MTV skit earlier this month. So it's a rumor. I'm not saying that it's not impossible for it to happen, but I would probably count it out. Moving on here, there were some pictures on here. I'm going to have to tweet these out. I really can't show them to you, but there was some concept art that was shown from Jared S. Martens about like the mech suit that he had, the possible mech suit. I can only describe it because I can't really show you the picture on here right now, and I don't want to waste any more time. But I will say that this we saw the mech suit, and when I'm saying the mech suit, the armored suit. Okay, that's probably the better way of putting it. The armored suit that was in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice when he's getting ready to throw down with Superman. There was actually concept art for that, and if any of you have seen the actual the Dark Knight Returns. Yeah, the Dark Knight Returns animated movie, which the clips that I've seen anyway of it. Like I said, I plan on going back and actually doing full reviews because those I've always watched the actual live action movies. I mean, I've watched animated movies before, like The Killing Joke. That was actually my first animated one. But going back and watching these and then posting reviews is on my to-do list. Believe me, I have a very, very long to-do list. So like I said, there's always content there. But what I'm going with is that there's a mech suit in there, and there was the armored suit that he used in The Dark Knight Returns, and you've seen it in the comics before if you are a comic reader. That's what this looked like. Now, putting it on the big screen, I don't know if it would have worked. I don't know what it worked. Some things work better in like drawings. Some things look better on the big screen. So that's probably why they decided to do with this. He was quoted with saying, "I had the honor of doing this initial costume concept illustration passes on the Batmech for Michael Wilkinson on Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. There were a lot of talented artists involved in the process, and I was excited to work on it." He just kind of went with that, and looking back, there really wasn't much to say about that. But anyway, the pictures looked really great. The pictures looked awesome, but my opinion is that the Dark Knight Returns mech suit probably wouldn't have worked out as well in Batman v Superman. As a matter of fact, I loved the Batman v Superman mech suit in there. I don't think I would have really made any changes to it, honestly. Actually, the only thing I could say is I wish we could see more of it. Now, I know in Justice League, they kind of have like the upgraded one where he has we've seen the picture before, and I've tweeted it out that he has his like the goggles that are on there, makes him look like Night Owl and stuff like that. I think we've talked about it before, but I just still, the concept art, like I said, check social media. I'll make sure I'll post a picture of it. So, before I forget, happy post-National Wonder Woman Day. Wonder Woman turned 75 years old. And they had a whole thing out there. I know this is a Batman show, but, because Wonder Woman did fall into Batman v Superman, I thought it was worth noting. And hey, who doesn't love Wonder Woman? And, honestly, I think that Gal Gadot, if I haven't said it on here, I think she's starting to show that if she showed it before, that she really has love for this character, but just if you listen to her interviews, she has mad respect. She wants to make sure that she gets this right. The little that we saw of her in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, I will say that it wasn't enough to sell me yet. She has, when she was in full Wonder Woman gear, when she was fighting, spoiler alert, when she was fighting, oh my God, Doomsday, thank you. I almost said Deathstroke. I have Deathstroke on my mind right now. When she was fighting Doomsday, I will say she definitely can do the yells. She can do all that kind of stuff. She can definitely do the fighting scenes. Now it remains to be seen, can she pull off a standalone movie on her own? We shall see. But the reason I kind of brought up Wonder Woman is because this is more kind of a business side of the DC Batman universe. It is. Warner Brothers and IMAX have extended their partnership. Now, they have announced this past week that they are extending their partnership with at least 12 new movies confirmed for release in a large format. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that, IMAX format, it's been used since The Dark Knight, filmed lots of sequences in that. As far as I know, when Batman was in Hong Kong to get Lau, and you see when he does the whole skyhook thing and he jumps off the building to get Lau, that was actually filmed in IMAX. And I am a big proponent for IMAX. I love the IMAX format. Movies so far that we've actually had in the IMAX format, off the top of my head, are obviously the Dark Knight Rises. A lot of it was filmed by Christopher Nolan. Loves IMAX. He loves old school movie. When it comes to 3D, I'm not so much a fan of that because I should be wearing my reading glasses right now, and I'm not. I'm gonna save that for another day because I'm too lazy. My eyes are pretty sore right now. But despite the fact though that when you go to the movie theaters, at least I don't like to have to to wear glasses. I mean, even though I should be, when I have to put on an extra set of glasses just to get a viewing experience, it's just like, it takes away from the experience for me. Bond, we've seen Skyfall and Spectre. They've been filmed in IMAX. I know positively Skyfall was, and I will go a good 80% that Spectre was filmed in IMAX. I'm pretty sure that Hoyt Van, whatever his name is, did film at least a couple sequences in there. I know that it was shown in IMAX. I know I pay that price. It is a little extra when you go to see it in the IMAX format. To me, it's worth it because of the quality of the picture. The sound. It's like the most insane surround sound that experience you'll ever get. Now, my goal was for one day, and maybe this will come for Justice League, or maybe it'll come for the new standalone Batman movie, or if we get a new or James Bond movie by that time, that I will go to one of the actual IMAX specific theaters. There's one, the closest one to me is in DC at one of the Smithsonian's. When a movie is filmed in IMAX, I think it makes the experience even better. That's my bottom line. So unfortunately, in the case of Justice League, though, the movie wasn't actually shot with IMAX cameras, so you're not really going to get any benefit from that. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, and like I said, the last two movies in the Dark Knight trilogy were filmed partially in IMAX. The Lego Batman will also be getting an IMAX release. So hey, and yeah, I have not forgotten about Lego Batman. I know that is like the forgotten one right about now. At least maybe on this show I've kind of let it slip. I haven't been doing as much Lego Batman because I always keep forgetting there's the great thing about being a Batman fan. And I'm sorry, James Bond fans, but I mean, we only have so many different iterations, at least on the big screen. There's usually only one. With Batman lately, we've had at least, I would say, 3 to 4 different iterations so far this year. We've had Ben Affleck's Batman, Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad. We have had Batman the Killing Joke. So we've had that iteration. We have had Adam West's return and Batman Return of the Cape Crusaders. And next year, well, I guess that's about 3. So yeah, 3. Next year we are getting Lego Batman. We are getting Justice League. Who knows what kind of other animated Batman movie we're going to get. So I got to say that, like I always say, it's great to be a Batman fan right about now, especially there's so much content out there in the cinematic universe, which is, like I said, what I cover, obviously. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that though. Anyway, IMAX, yeah, I'm really excited about this. So any chance I can go to see a movie in IMAX format, I'm always excited about. So let's move on here. Okay, this is a story I didn't get a chance to talk about in the last week or so, but I did mean to. It's kind of fell on my notes list and so forth because there's been a lot of things going on with Roger Moore's birthday. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, definitely check that out. So Sam Mendes, a name that we are all familiar with, hopefully by now, if you are a James Bond fan. So we're switching gears here. So, and some will say that he maybe followed a template for Batman, Skyfall, maybe possibly, but we'll talk about that another day. Okay, I will say that I absolutely love Skyfall. Okay, so it has been announced that Sam Mendes might not have anything more to do with directing James Bond movies. Now, he has directed, like I said, Skyfall in 2012. He just got off directing Spectre in 2015. He almost didn't come back for Spectre. I remember in the news he was talking about that, and I'm like, what a shame, because he set such a interesting, and I don't want to say world, if you will. Well, I guess you could say world. He just set up so many great things in Skyfall. He set up a new M. He set up a new Moneypenny. He set up a new Q. And it just how James Bond was kind of looked at, I guess, in a way. He resurrected some things that weren't there before. I think that, as a storyteller, I think he realized and he mentioned this before with Casino Royale. He's like, okay, James Bond can be more than just I guess action, and Bond girls and so forth. Not saying that he didn't have any of that in there. I'm saying that he is a storyteller. If you've ever seen any of his other movies, the big one that sticks in my mind is American Beauty. It's absolutely nothing like a James Bond movie. As a matter of fact, it is probably the furthest thing away from a James Bond movie. And however, as a storyteller, he just did so well. So when he was announced to direct Skyfall, I'm like, this is interesting because here we go again. And I'm no disrespect to director Mark Foster, who directed Quantum of Solace, because he was an Oscar-winning director, or he was at least nominated for an Oscar for Monsters Ball, and he had nothing to do with action movies. We have a director like, say, going back to Die Another Day with Lee Tamahori. Once again, nothing to do. He did more kind of I guess you could say thriller dramas. And the same thing can be said about Mendes. And, it's just like, okay, well, the producers usually they usually have a good grasp. They know what they're looking for and what they want in a director and what they want a Bond movie to be. Some will say that sometimes it's awesome, sometimes it's not quite what we wanted. And I think we're in fairness that saying not every Bond movie is not what we wanted it to be. Some like others more than others. Then that's cool too. But I think we can all agree that when it comes to a Bond movie, there's always like that how you say formulaic. Sorry, I'm from out of the country, obviously. No. Anyway, there's all those. There's something that makes a Bond movie a Bond movie. It's that formula. Okay, so you have the pre-title sequence. You have let me start that again. You have a gun barrel. There you go. You have a gun barrel. Sometimes it might be at the beginning. Sometimes it might be at the end. You have a pre-title sequence. You have, your opening song in there sung by some famous artist at the time. You have beautiful locations, beautiful, gorgeous Bond girls. You have a villain that's, could be revealed by the end of the movie. You have, the Walther PPK, martini shaken not stirred, all the Aston Martin or some kind of nifty gadget in there. And that's something that was missing from Quantum of Solace. I think we can all agree with that it was kind of a Bond movie that didn't have all the elements. They tried something different. So when they brought Mendes in, I think Mendes realized, okay, well, he said he was a fan of Live and Let Die, and he's a big fan of Bond movies, and he's also a fan of Christopher Nolan. So when he put all those elements together and they made Skyfall, I think it was pretty clear that he was more of a fan maybe than Mark Foster was. And like I said, I'm not trying to disrespect Mark Foster. I really do like Quantum of Solace, not as much as say a Casino Royale or Skyfall. Okay. Going on with that though, Mendes brought something that like I said, he brought back some of those classic elements. We need to hear the name's Bond, James Bond, or something like that. Even if Bond didn't say it in that movie about martini shaken not stirred, you see the girl, she's doing her thing, she's shaking it, and he's like, perfect. And just those little things, he brought a little bit more humor back to that. And I think that when it comes to that, I think he knows how to do character development. That's exactly what I was going for. He knows how to do character development. We saw a character development in Bond. We've seen Bond go through different things. I'm not trying to do a review of Skyfall. Trust me, I want to save that for another time. I'm just touching on some of this. What I feel makes Mendes such a great director. Having said that, when it got to Spectre, he decided maybe to go a little bit of a different route than we expected. I think we all know that it was kind of tough to overcome or just to outdo. It's almost like he outdid himself with Skyfall. So when he was brought on he said he wanted to do something else before that. He was doing, I think, some kind of play or something smaller because I can only imagine doing such a big project, say as a Bond or Batman movie, that it does take quite a toll. It's got to be, there's so much work that goes into it, and the after product is always worth it to us, the fans. Now, when it came to Spectre, I think, like I said, he brought back even more classic elements in there, and I will tease this that I do have a Spectre review that will be dropping next week. So I will not touch any more on Spectre, but I will say there is a review in the works, and it will be coming soon. I finally get to talk about that, so stay tuned. But having said that, though, it doesn't look like he's going to have anything to do more with the Bond movies. I think, as a matter of fact, he said after Spectre, this will be his last one. Now, he did say that about Skyfall, and that's okay. So I would never completely rule it out. This is just, it's in talks that he's trying to produce a best-selling novel adaptation of Beautiful Ruins for Fox 2000. It's, who knows what's going to happen with this. He's going to be involved with this, and, I don't know. Like I said, when somebody's involved with this, it kind of falls into the same pattern as Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig's involved in a Broadway play right now in New York. It just depends, because sometimes they need time off. And in a way, I will say maybe this is for the best. Mendes gave us two great Bond movies, and maybe, back to back like that. I think it's like, okay, I've done everything I possibly can, and maybe it's time to move on and pass the torch to somebody else. It's time to pass the Walther, if you will, or time to pass the martini glass to somebody else. So, and having said that, though, I think, Mendes did a great job. Now, let's switch gears completely here. Something I did want to talk about because, it is that time of the year. For those of you that do celebrate this holiday, this is a holiday that I personally love, if you can't tell by now, especially if you've been following me for the last couple episodes, you've been following me since the iteration of this show back in February. I love dressing up, okay? Yes, I haven't disclosed this yet. I will disclose this right now. I was born on Halloween. There you go. I said it. I was born on Halloween. Maybe that's why I love Halloween so much or maybe that's why I love cosplay. That's why I love dressing up. That's why I love all this kind of stuff. But it's still, maybe it has nothing to do with the reason I'm a Batman or James Bond fan, but I will look for any excuse to dress up. Now, having said that, I will say that, I definitely am dressing up for Halloween. Now, the costume that you see right behind you, no, I am actually not going to use that for Halloween. Now, you're scratching your head probably like, well, why? Because that's such an awesome costume. Well, it is an awesome costume, yes. I've used that probably 3 times in less than a month, I think, give or take now. And I will say that it is an awesome costume, but I think when I'm just kind of hanging out here, we're going to be doing a Halloween party or maybe going to a Halloween party, and one of the two anyway. I wanted to try something different. There's actually my friends are saying, are you going to wear the suit? Are you going to wear the Batman suit? I'm like, I don't think so this year. No, I'm not going to wear it. Now, I've done Batman plenty of times, so I wanted to change it up this time. Now, of course, like I said, there's a movie that came out about a year ago, and I just talked about it like 2 seconds ago. It's called SPECTRE. Now, I have been teasing this on social media for the last month or so I did want to bring it, to the show now I'm doing the video. I think this would be the perfect time, if any. Halloween costumes, everybody's, right now we're less than a week away. By the time you're listening to this, you might either have a Halloween costume or you might not. Now, I've been getting a lot of questions about this costume that I've been teasing. Now, there's no other way to say it, but I'm going to be James Bond, but it's not going to be the James Bond that you think I'm going to be, okay? So I'm going to dress like James Bond from SPECTRE as he did at the beginning of in the pre-title sequence when he was in the Day of the Dead sequence. Now, I'm going to have to do this real quick because I want to make sure that, for the podcast listeners, they're not going to be, gypped of this episode. So I will show this really quick. This is my SPECTRE mask. Yes, that is the SPECTRE mask, the skull mask. Yes, there is a slight crack in there. That's a long story, but I will say that is a backup plan unless my other one gets here. Now, I bought this skeleton mask. I bought this off of eBay, as a matter of fact. And what I was trying to do, like I said, trying to get all this together, I was searching social media for this. I was searching eBay, anywhere I could possibly find this. Because my wife wanted to do a corpse bride or corpse groom or something like that. So I'm thinking, I'm being sneaky, as a matter of fact, folks. I can be sneaky like that way. Let's face it, Batman and Bond are always that way. And maybe I get that from them. I have no idea. But I was sneaky in my idea for my costume. I'm like, okay, honey, let's do this together. So I'm like, okay, I showed her the top hat. I showed her the skull suit, which I'm not going to put on right now. But I did buy the skull suit. And it was a really easy find. It was actually maybe, depending on if you can find it right now, you're probably going to pay more than you probably should. And I'm sorry, I'm just getting into this now, but I didn't know that there were so many people that wanted to do this costume. I mean, given though it's a year, and if you're a James Bond fan or if you just like this kind of stuff, then maybe you're into it. But Halloween's such a great holiday that you can do. There's so many different things you can do with this. But like I said, Day of the Dead was definitely something that I wanted to do. I definitely wanted to do this costume since I saw it in the trailers last year. So I bought my top hat. There it is. Yep, the top hat. Some will say maybe it's an odd job hat. Maybe I will actually just do a little, if somebody makes me mad that night, I'll just kind of toss it at them and maybe, just give them a little hit, just saying, hey, you got to control yourself or I'm going to do an odd job on you. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so the skull mask, I think, here's the problem with the skull mask. It's not so much the price of the skull mask, okay? It's where it's coming from, okay? And bear with me when I say this, all right? So the skull mask, depending on your location, I know I have listeners in the U.S., I know I have listeners abroad, possibly more in the UK, especially if you're a James Bond fan. If you're abroad, then maybe you can get it quicker than I did. I ordered my skull mask probably back in late September, beginning of October, okay? And I was told it would get here between like maybe the beginning, It could take anywhere from a week to 4 weeks. Now, it was coming from China, and sometimes some of the great costumes do come from there. I've ordered costumes from there for my Batman costume, and that's why I was like, okay, well, I'm going to play the odds here, and hopefully it'll come here in time. Now, it's not supposed to arrive until Thursday, and it almost didn't arrive till Halloween, which would have done me no good in time for a Halloween party. So that's why I ended up ordering Mr. Backup here. It's pretty much the same thing, and like I said, I think this is a really good iteration. I paid about $29.99 for this, and like I said, it's on eBay. If you want the link for it, I can send it to you. Like I said, the only reason I got this one quicker within less than a week was because it was cracked. I figured I could work around the crack because it's a skull. I mean, I'll make up some kind of story saying, "Oh, well, I was getting in a fight with Sierra in Mexico at the Day of the Dead party, and he cracked my skull mask, and I had to put it back together." No one will get that but you guys, but if you are a James Bond fan. So, like I said, I bought that. The top hat maybe cost about $10, I think, not with shipping. So, that was really cool. Yes, another computer just popped on here, but we'll just, work with that. Anyway, so, like I said, the skull suit cost maybe about $49.99, I think it was. It wasn't so bad. It was, I don't know. To me, it's not going to be the perfect iteration of, there we go. It's not going to be the perfect iteration of the Spectre costume, but it is a good interpretation. I think, honestly, between all of us, I think everybody's going to see this, and they're not going to know exactly what it is unless they are a Bond fan or even a Batman fan, to be honest with you. So, if you are lucky enough to order that on eBay, or if you want to order that on eBay, definitely hit me up, and I will definitely send you the links to that. Now, for you last-minute people out there, you stragglers, and you know who you are, you need a last-minute costume, and you know what? I've been there before. You need something to do. You want to impress. If you want to impress the ladies, if you want to impress the guys out there, it's easier for the ladies to find a costume. In my mind, no, that is not intended to be sexist. It just means that you ladies have more options. If you are a Batman fan, especially, I think it's easier to find a costume or to make your own homemade costume. If you're a Batman fan, it's harder to make a costume. And I've tried researching this for you guys, and honestly, I haven't been able to find so much for Batman. I have a couple ideas that I did find, and I will make sure I send those out, but I did want to talk more about the James Bond because the last minute, it's so easy to get this stuff, and at a decent rate or a decent price depending on where you want to go. You can go to your local thrift store, you can go to your local department store. These are all easy access items to get. So let's start with the basic one, the James Bond tux. You can go in so many different directions with this. I was thinking, okay, you can go one of many things. You can do, I've done this before back in college, and of course nobody knew what it was unless I had a gun and a martini glass, and unfortunately I didn't have the martini glass. Now, if you just want to be James Bond, and who doesn't? What guy sometimes doesn't want to be James Bond? You got your Walther, you got your martini glass, you got your bow tie on there, and depending on the detail you want to go into it, you can make it your own. So, if it was me, for an option, I would say if you have a black suit, you're already good. You have a white dress shirt, you're good. If you have a bow tie, even better, and you can just rock. And a bow tie is actually easy to find. If you go to any costume store, I've done this before, just get a bow tie, and it can be like a clip-on. You can go to like a depending on what kind of store that you go to, like say a Walmart or Target, anything like that. I'm sure they have black bow ties that are out there. That would be something good to have. If props are always a plus when it comes to a costume, at least in my mind. This one was specifically ordered on Etsy.com. Now, I don't know if the maker is making these anymore. This is a toy gun. This is a foam gun, mind you, but it looks like the real thing. So if you're going out in the streets, in downtown, or if you're going out to the city, I would not take anything like this. I would just find some kind of toy orange gun or something like that, and just if you want to have that, or if you don't want to do a gun, I totally understand that too. I would just do what I did yesterday, and I actually posted this on social media. I would get a plastic martini glass. If you just think about it, if you rock just a black suit or even the white jacket, if you want to get fancy, I would do the white jacket. I just bought a white jacket recently, and I'm looking for any excuse to wear it. But at the same time, I'm like, Man, I'd rather save that for a Comic-Con instead of my friends. They could possibly spill a drink or spill something on it, because that's a white suit or a white jacket, dinner jacket, and that's but while it's, as Vesper Lynn says, it's the latter. I don't want to ruin my white jacket, because that was not an easy thing to find, just given that price anyway, because of course we were all on a budget too. So that's an option for you guys, for the guys anyway. Ladies, as a matter of fact, why don't you dress up in a tux? There's nothing sexier than a woman in a suit sometimes, especially in a bow tie. Now, I don't see why you couldn't do that. I know I'm jumping ahead here, but if you wanted to dress like in some kind of a suit, you put a bow tie and you just have like the martini glass in there, the plastic martini glass. Well, I don't see why they don't let you carry about that to a party or to any kind of club or anything like that, or any bar. I think that would be an easy option. You can go with another option that I came up with, the black turtleneck shirt, and like just kind of like, I would almost call it like the Live and Let Die or the Spectre look, okay? Or kind of like a Steve McQueen look. You have the black turtleneck shirt, okay? And just some black trousers, and it kind of looks like Archer. If you guys have ever watched that show, first of all, that is a very funny spin. It's like the cartoon version of James Bond, but it's just so funny and out there. It's like Family Guy meets James Bond. That's the best way I would describe it, and I love it. It's a really funny show. As a matter of fact, I need to get back to watching that. Still watching Arrow and Flash right now. But besides the point, though, Archer he carries almost the same kind of. He works for a company just like James Bond does, and he always makes fun. The inside joke is with this that he wears the black turtleneck on there. It's kind of like, as they say, the D-bag turtleneck in there, kind of the spy kind of look or whatever. And he has his gun and so forth or whatever. So if you wanted to do that, if you're a fan of Archer, James Bond, then just find a black turtleneck. You can find it, like I said, any department store, any kind of store, any thrift stores are definitely the places to go for Halloween costumes, especially this time of the year. Something on discount. A black turtleneck, given that it's fall, depending on what location you're in, I don't think it's going to be too hard, to be honest with you. If you can do that, some kind of black pants, it can be dress pants, it can be just some jean. I would say if you can find black dress pants, probably a little bit better, probably look a little bit more suave there. Maybe slick your hair back, I don't know, something like that. Or you could possibly put like a black hat, like a snow cap on. I'm just coming up with all these random ideas for you guys. Once again, do the toy gun. You can do the plastic martini glass. Yeah, that's the thing. You need to have the plastic martini glass. I picked one up yesterday for maybe like $4 at the grocery store, and I told my wife, I was like, I gotta have this. I have to have it. This was the element that's missing from my costume. When people see that martini glass, they instantly think James Bond. So there you go. If you can find like a gun strap holster or something like that, I think that would be even more props. But like I said, given the amount of time that we have, less than a week to go for Halloween, these are like these are easy ideas. If you can find these like on eBay at your local Halloween store, definitely try. Sorry, that's my dog barking in the back, which I have to shut up, but hey, the show must go on, right? So bear with me. For the ladies, the ideas, they're out there. Catwoman. My wife is dressed up as Catwoman, and I can only use her as an example. If you can find cat ears, you can find like a headband that has the cat ears. If you're into creativity, you can probably make your own cat ears. You wear just like the black bodysuit. She's worn that, and you just put on like pale makeup and stuff. Like, I should have her talk about this because she's the makeup specialist, of course. But I'm just trying to remember what she did. You just put on some lighter makeup if you want to go for more of the Michelle Pfeiffer look. You can go even for the if you want to go the comic book iterations, that's always one too. But I'm going by, like, say, The Dark Knight Rises with Selena Kyle when they're played by Anne Hathaway. She did more of a plain black leather bodysuit in there, which was great, by the way. Don't tell my wife. That's an idea for you guys to go with as well, or for you ladies to go with as well. That's probably I think of all the female costumes, I think that would probably be the easiest, because most people, and you get the black whip if you can find it at a Halloween store this time of the year, or this time. I don't see why you can't find that. Amazon, if you have Prime, free shipping on there. If you can look on eBay and they can do a rush expedited delivery on there, go for it, because I think the costume is definitely, to do these costumes is the most fun anyway. Wonder Woman's definitely going to be a big one. Wonder Woman costumes, every Halloween store is going to have these. eBay, Amazon, once again. The problem is, it's depending on how much detail you want to get into. Every iteration I've seen of the Wonder Woman costume right now has been more, obviously, Batman v Superman. The classic iterations are always great as well. But I think one that's going to be beating that right now is the Harley Quinn costume. Ladies, And Gents 2, this is definitely the year of Harley Quinn. This is the year of Margot Robbie. That costume has been the most popular one I've seen at Comic Cons this year, as it should be, because it is a great costume. The T-shirt in there, that she has Daddy's Little Monster on there, and she has the shorts in there. If you want to be risque, then yeah, you can go with it, but you can also put, I think if you want to be not so scandalous, then I don't see why you can't just do like the pigtails. You can color your hair, you can do all kinds of stuff. Like I said, I'm touching on stuff that's not quite my forte, but I did want to mention that. If you can find it, Poison Ivy, that's always another costume to go with. As for villains, there's a couple I did see online. These were actually courtesy of, it's lovetoknow.com. So, and I will send out that link for you guys. Like I said, villains, you can always try to do a Blofeld. That was an interesting one to me, because if you can find like a, there are different iterations of Blofeld. So if you can find something like, say, the, it's almost looks like a Dr. Evil, I think. I mean, yeah, he's bald and he wears that the Nauru jacket, I believe it's called, and monocle. And you can kind of be creative. You can have the scar on your face, kind of like he did, depending on which iteration of Blofeld you want to go with. Donald Pleasance had the scar on there. Christoph Waltz had the scar on there. That's an idea that you guys could go with. And maybe you can go by like some kind of like little stuffed white pussycat in there. I don't know. That was an idea. I thought that was a pretty funny idea. Odd Job, actually, that is a very easy one. Here you go, folks. Like I just said, I have the Odd Job hat if I ever wanted to go with that. You could wear a suit. You could wear possibly a suit instead of the bow tie. I wear just a straight black tie, and I don't know. I don't know. The Odd Job, it could work possibly. This one is I don't know. I think honestly, one of my old roommates did this, and she was technically the fifth roommate. But besides the fact, though, I said she. Now, Goldfinger is a man, and he is of larger carriage in the movie Goldfinger. But if you want to be creative, ladies, this one is for you. This is another idea. What she did is she just bought some kind of gold dress. She randomly found it somewhere. She put on some gold gloves. She put on a top hat, and she was actually Goldfinger. I thought that was really creative. Somebody said, "Oh, well, you could just paint one finger gold, and then you could just say, oh, I've got the Goldfinger." I'm like, no, it's not going to work. That's not going to work at all. So that was another idea also. So those are your Halloween costume ideas, guys. So, I mean, it's just an idea anyway. So, let me know what you think. So anyway, let's move into birthdays and anniversaries. A couple big birthdays that are happening this week. One big one is one of the creators of Batman. That's right. Creator of the Batman. That's right. I said it. Bob Kane celebrates a birthday on October 24th. You might not know the name, or you maybe have heard it and you're just like, okay, well, that's cool. Honestly, I think it's pretty cool. He is, if it wasn't for this guy and for Bill Finger, we wouldn't have this character of Batman that's been going on for over 75 years now. I know him mostly, obviously, for not just creating Batman, but when I'm watching a title sequence in a Batman movie, depending on which one it is, whether it's, with the Burton films and Schumacher, at the very beginning, it comes up and it says, based on characters from the DC universe, or based on characters from DC Comics. And then it has this guy's name, Bob Kane. That's how I've always known it. I know, like, especially when I'm watching Batman 89, when it's going through the Batman symbol and you just kind of see it revolving around there, then you just, it's the camera work is doing its own, like, little thing, but I see Bob Kane. My eyes always light up when I see that name. Like I said, I'm not too familiar when it comes with comics. I mean, I know enough that I'm actually reading a little bit of Batman New 52 right before I go to bed every night now. Or at least I'm trying to when I'm not on my phone and just writing down ideas for the show. But and now, especially when you see like the end of credit sequences, like say with Nolan trilogy, you see based on characters by created in the DC universe, and then you see Bob Kane's name on there just by itself. When it came to Batman v Superman, though, we actually saw Bob Kane and Bill Finger in there. So I think it was good because now you're getting both creators of Batman credited. I'm not sure what the reason for that is, but maybe one of you guys can let me know about that. Anyway, moving on, another big birthday. I would consider this a big birthday if you are a James Bond fan and if you are a fan of these two movies, as am I. Mr. Martin Campbell, director of Goldeneye and Casino Royale, celebrates a birthday this week on also October 24th. I think I've said it before and I'll keep saying it again. GoldenEye first James Bond movie experience I ever had, and still to this day, I have a quote that a funny comment I always make when I post about GoldenEye. It's when GoldenEye is on, everything stops. That's actually like a new rule in my house that I've created. I think, you know what, I'm gonna continue that, and it should be almost for any Batman or James Bond movie, but specifically GoldenEye. I don't know what it is. That is like my go-to James Bond film. I don't care how many times I've seen that movie. Resurrecting James Bond after like the hiatus between 1989 and 1995, bringing him back on screen, that was quite the task, not only for the writers and for the producers, but as a director, I can only imagine what it was going to be like. So Martin Campbell, he had quite the task the task for him to do, but I must say that he delivered with that. All the elements of, like, and I said this earlier in the show, the elements of what a Batman movie has. The name's Bond, James Bond, Walther PPK, Martini Glass, or Martini Shaken Not Stirred. The Aston Martin DB5 made a return in there. We hadn't seen that since Goldfinger. It's like, and just he threw that at the very beginning. Love seeing Pierce drive in there, and Pierce was having so much fun with that. And if I haven't said it before, Pierce Brosnan, is he my favorite James Bond? He's up there, but I don't think he's my favorite James Bond. But I will say that in GoldenEye, he was my first James Bond, and I think that he had so much. He delivered with this character, and even with the story, everything about it. I think it was such a great. It's one. It will stand. It holds up. I think overall, the camera work, or maybe how it was filmed, if you will. I think it has that element now that it looks like it's a little older, but I think overall story wise, I think that it does hold up. What's really great about Martin Campbell is that not only did he have the pleasure of, or the chance to direct a Bond movie such as GoldenEye, where he was able to resurrect James Bond with Pierce Brosnan, he was also able to start another new James Bond franchise when it came to the Daniel Craig era. How about that? You get to not only create you actually get to direct not only one of the greatest Bond movies ever, but you get to direct maybe one of the greatest Bond movies of all time. I think we can all say the Casino Royale, it might I say it outdoes On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I go on record. I'm recorded saying that, so I'll leave it at that. But I will say the Casino Royale, is such a great Bond movie and just a film in general. And you go back and you look at this, it's like, okay, we're starting at the very beginning. Martin Campbell had to almost undo everything he did with GoldenEye because he started the Pierce Brosnan era. And now you're starting a whole new era of a whole bunch of haters that do not want to see Daniel Craig as James Bond. And you have to kind of just silence them saying, hey, guess what? This Daniel Craig is the new James Bond. And guess what? Yeah, his name. His name is Bond, James Bond, and you have to recreate him, but for a new audience, for a new time, and just for just a kind of it's a different actor, so he had to put a new spin on it. But somehow he just knocked it out of the park. He did it. I don't know how. And maybe it just proves of how great of a filmmaker this man is. I have nothing but the highest respects for him. I mean, I'm trying to think of another movie I've seen of his. Honestly, I mean, the only ones that come to mind off the top of my head are The Mask of Zorro, Legend of Zorro. He did direct one called Green Lantern, which we will never talk about again on here. But, when it comes to Bond movies, I think we can all agree that those two Bond movies are by far some of the best Bond movies. I mean, when you ask somebody if they've ever seen a Bond movie, chances are they've heard of at least GoldenEye and Casino Royale, or they've seen that, and they will definitely have mad respect for it. I mean, the names say itself. The names say it for themselves. Excuse me. So, moving on here, Matthew Almerac, celebrates a birthday on October 25th. We talked a little bit about Quantum of Solace earlier. The villain in there, Dominic Green. He was the one who played Dominic Green. Let's talk a little bit about Dominic Green. I talked a little bit about Quantum of Solace earlier, saying all the elements of a Bond movie weren't quite there, and when it comes to the villain, what was interesting about Dominic Green is that when it comes to a James Bond villain specifically, we always think, okay, well, he has to almost have something that makes him, that differentiates himself in a way. In some Bond movies, we've seen things where it just looks like this regular guy, and if you're looking, it's a Aristotle Christados and For Your Eyes Only. If you're looking even at Kamal Khan and Octopussy, you're looking at characters like that. It's just like, okay, well, what really makes them rememberable? I guess memorable. I mean, memorable. What separates them from, say, something like a Goldfinger? While Goldfinger didn't have any like facial scars on his face, but he just had that, that red golden hair in there, and he just wore everything gold. So you think Goldfinger. When you think of Blofeld, what do you think of? You think of a bald guy stroking a pussycat. When you think of Largo, you think of the eye patch. I mean, even with Silva, recently in Skyfall, I mean, yeah, he had that jaw thing in there. So, it's just like little things like that. So I remember in an interview, or just in like the making of, even director Mark Foster of Quantum of Solace saying, like, you know what, Dominic Green or Matthew Omrick had that look in his eyes that he didn't need to have any of these scars. And I will agree with that this guy's eyes, he has like the scariest kind of, or freaky kind of looking bug eyes. And to be honest with you, I think that's maybe why they decided to kind of leave it alone, saying, okay, this guy is just, he's not obviously the big baddie, but he is a bad guy, and he should be feared for along those reasons and stuff. I really liked the part in there that he played when it was he was at the party. It was one of the Green Planet parties in Bolivia, and he was about to push off Camille off of the ledge, saying, oh, maybe you were drunk and you lost your step or something like that. And then James Bond shows up, Danny Boy shows up, and he's like, good evening. And then my friends call me Dominique, and he's like, I'm sure they do. And be careful with this one, Mr. Bond. She won't get you. She won't give you what she wants. Give you what you want unless you go to bed with her. Something along those lines. And one of the greatest lines that came out of Quantum of Solace was actually delivered, I would say, by Matthew Omrick or Dominic Green, and he was saying that you two do make a charming couple. You are what's the expression? Damaged goods. Boy, does that sum up that movie. That does sum up that movie in those two characters, of the characters of Camille and of James Bond. And, but overall, though, I liked Matthew Omrick as Dominic Green. I'm just saying that when we go back possibly, or when our kids, our grandchildren, wherever, they go back and look at these movies, I will say that Dominic Green might not be the most memorable, but I will say that he was kind of a worthy adversary. He did give a good fight at the end with James Bond. And by the way, the axe to the foot, ouch. Last birthday here is John Cleese. He celebrates a birthday on October 27th. He's not always known for Monty Python. Actually, I've never seen the movies, true story. But I do know that I saw him in The World Is Not Enough and Die Another Day. Yes, he was playing R, and he was kind of being passed the torch, which we've never seen in a James Bond movie. And Pierce Brosnan summed it up best. If he's cute, does that make if you're cute, does that make you R? They had a really good introduction because they knew it was kind of the end of the run for Desmond Llewellyn. And Desmond, I'm sure, wanted to he had been doing it for so long, since like 1963 as Q. Different Bond actors, Sean Connery, George Lazenby, Roger Moore, Pierce, and it was in 1999, so it's like, okay, well, Desmond Llewellyn he's always going to be cute in my mind, and I think we can all agree on that. But how do you replace Q? Well, you're not kind of replacing Q, but you're just kind of, the writers put Purvis and Wade, Neil Purvis and Robert Wade put such a great spin on this. So they're like, okay, we're gonna kind of have one end scene with Desmond Llewellyn as Q, and it's kind of be saying, this is my new replacement, and that's exactly what he was. He had more of a humor aspect because that's how John Cleese is, and I really admire that. And even in Die Another Day, he's like, he paid tribute in a way to Desmond Llewellyn, and he was saying, as I learned from my predecessor Bond, I never joke about my work. And I was like, thank you, John Cleese, for doing that, and thank you to the writers for doing that, because that just shows that respect the past and embrace the future. John Cleese overall as Q, I think he did a great job with it. When we go back, if we go back and look at this, it's going to be like, oh, there was another Q there, because right now I think the biggest Qs that are going to be remembered, of course, is Desmond Llewellyn. People are still taking to Ben Wishaw's Q. I think that I like the direction that they've done with that Q. I really do hope we get to see him more. He's not so much the he's not so much the guy in the white lab coat anymore. He's kind of more of the computer hacker kind of type, and that's kind of the generation. So when we go back and look at these Bond movies, we look at these cues, and with John Cleese's cue, it was more kind of like the X-ray glasses. It was more the virtual reality, the invisible Aston Martin, and none of which were his fault for the invisible Aston Martin. But I think overall, though, as a cue, I think he did a great job. So moving into the final part of the show, Versus. That's right, we made it finally. This is the part of the show where we compare movies of the Batman or James Bond universes versus other franchises in the same wheelhouse. Sometimes we'll just do it in the James Bond or Batman universes. Lately, we've been doing it kind of just staying in the James Bond universe or Batman. Because it was Roger Moore's birthday this past week, I decided, okay, let's do a not only a versus of 2 movies, let's do a versus of 3 movies, because Roger Moore had a lot of Bond movies, and he had a lot of great Bond movies, as a matter of fact. And I tried to figure out, I'm thinking, okay, I know what my favorite 2 Roger Moore Bond movies are, but I know that there happened to be a third out there, and I'm so glad that I decided to add this last minute. I'm like, okay, The Spy Who Loved Me is one of my favorites. For Your Eyes Only is one of my favorites. And I'm like, wait a minute. When I was going back even doing the Roger Moore episode, I'm like, I do like Live and Let Die a lot, and I know a lot of people out there love Live and Let Die. So I added that to the list last minute. So I did the triple theme Roger Moore James Bond versus, and I'm glad I did, because 38% Live and Let Die came out on top, with Spy Who Loved Me and For Your Eyes Only coming in tied to 31%. So Live and Let Die was the big winner there. Talked about all the movies last week, so I really won't go into it at all. But I will say that, that's the great thing about being a Bond fan, and the same thing with a Batman fan. Obviously, James Bond fans, we have so many movies, we have so many different iterations of the character of James Bond. Depends on what pick your poison. Who do you love more? Do you love more humor? Do you like more of the serious tone? Do you like a darker tone? Do you like more kind of relaxed tone? Roger Moore had more of the easygoing, kind of lighthearted. As he said, he's more of kind of like the, he's not the dark, cold-blooded killer. He's more of kind of like the lover, if you will. And Live and Let Die, great Bond movie. Spy Who Loved Me, great Bond movie. For Your Eyes Only, I can always go back and watch them, so definitely enjoy. This week's versus is going to be a little bit more Halloween themed. Yeah, I was thinking about it. I was like, I could go Batman themed, but because I have the review coming up in a week, and because I want to definitely promote it, and because I just think that there's a lot of people that actually might. This will be a very interesting versus, might I say, okay? The reason I decided to do this versus is, one, because the theme of skulls and skeletons and voodoo and magic, actually, and Day of the Dead and all kinds of things were all mixed in. So this week's versus is going to be Live and Let Die versus Spectre. 2 Bond movies that I would say are very far different from each other, but I think there's going to be similarities there, and I think if I had to predict the winner right about now, I'm going to predict Live and Let Die, but I think that Spectre will at least give it a good run, or give it a good second place. Some people love Spectre. They like the return elements of that James Bond. Some people just think that it was just not a good Bond movie. It just fell flat, and it just was kind of boring, or just the third act. With Live and Let Die, I mean, the same could be said. It was just like, okay, well, Bond's going from location to location, but it doesn't have as much of the gadgets. There's no Q in there, and I don't know. I honestly, like I said, I like both these Bond movies. Are they at the top of my favorite Bond movies? I don't know. We'll talk about that another time. But so I will be posting this on Twitter. By the time you listen to this, that Twitter poll will be up on the next day. So that about wraps it up for this episode of the Batman vs. James Bond show. Please subscribe on iTunes, rate it 5 stars, guys. I'd really appreciate it. Leave a nice review for me on there. The biggest thing you can do for me, like I said, this is a free show. I do this because I enjoy this, because I am a fan of everything. Do I know everything? Absolutely not. But you know what? I love learning about it sometimes as I go. And the biggest thing that you can do to help support my show is just share the show. Rate it 5 stars and share the show with your friends. If if you have friends that are Batman movie fans out there, or James Bond movie fans on there, turn them onto this show. I think they're going to enjoy it. Follow me on all of our social media networks at Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Batman vs. Bond. Find the show on BS Podcast Network. That's right. Also be sure to check out all the other great programming out there, including Pure BS Podcast, Science Fiction Podcast, and Horribly Awkward Podcast. That is bspodcastnetwork.com. Like James Bond, I will return. Until next time, I'm Brian Thomas. Thanks for listening, everybody, and have a great week, everyone. Peace out. Bye-bye.